I would like to present my further oral activity. The piece I chose was a propaganda by Howard Miller, commonly called Rosie the Riveter, although it's not the official title. So some background knowledge on this. It's called a Rosie the Riveter, as coined by a lot of people, but it's, as I said before, it's not the official name. It's a propaganda made during the Second World War, and it's to promote feminism when women had inferior rights to men. So what I'd like to talk about is the context, audience, and the purpose, and I'll do this by analyzing the text. So through the use of symbolism of colors, a hopeful tone, minute illustration, Howard Miller hoped to convey his theme. Feminism is important, but only to an extent where men are superior. In his propaganda, Rosie the Riveter. So, as I said before, it was made during the World War II in 1942, which was 3 years before it ended. And it was made for women who are replacing the jobs by men, because the men were drafted by the U.S. Army to go to the war, and because of that, the jobs they were occupying at the factories were gone, and so they needed people to make ammunition, which women were suited at the time for it. So firstly, I would like to talk about the context. As you can see, there's a yellow background which promotes a warming effect, and it's also associated with joy because it's associated with sunshine. And what that does is it promotes positivity to encourage women to work for the vacant spots. So by having a positive connotation, it makes working more desirable. Secondly, the blue attire. Blue attires are usually worn by Marines, which explains the association with sky and sea. Sky is associated with Sky Force, and sea, the Marine, which are both blue. And then blue is a common reference to loyalty. By working at the factories, they're saying that the woman can be loyal to the nation by supporting the men in the war. And lastly, I would like to talk about the red bandana. It's red, and this can symbolize two things: strength and blood. Strength because it's promoting woman power, feminism, and blood because obviously it's associated with war. So it's saying that the woman can be part of the war. And the bandana is a common object used by low-class and middle-class workers in the 1940s, which consisted most of the population of men and women, but mostly women, because they're inferior rights. So it's reaching out to most people at the time period. Now I'd like to talk about the context, the audience. So as I said before, it's for people, the women who are forced to replace the jobs for men during the Second World War. How Miller does this is, firstly, he draws a lot of makeup and nail polish, which is, as you can see, there's lots of makeup, and there's 1, 2 nail polish, which we can infer the whole hand is polished as well. And this is typically those of an average woman, those of middle class. And I would like to talk about a different aspect of the bandana. So, as I said before, the bandana is usually worn by low class and workers to blow their snots or wipe off their grease. But in this case, it's red and white dots, and it has a ribbon at the front, which is very aesthetically pleasing. It goes against the common usage of bandana, which can be a reference to women because women stereotypically care more about their appearances. So they do that by wearing more accessories such as ribbons, and instead of wearing plain clothes, they put on patterns. And lastly, I would like to talk about the quote on top, "We can do it." It's a collective pronoun, or collective we, and it has a sense of unity, so it's reaching out to all the women that's looking at this poster, the propaganda. Also, it's a promotion of hope, as the verb can. It's a conjugation of to be able to. So they're saying that they can do it, and not only can they do? Can they make the ammunition for the men? They can also gain power for women. Lastly, I'd like to talk about the purpose. So on the surface, ostentatiously, there's an explicit purpose to promote feminism and advocate for women's rights and power in an era where women's rights are severely inferior to men. As you can see, the woman has a strong posture like this, demonstrating its muscles, which symbolizes power, a reference to the feminism and woman power they're hoping to establish. And then again, there's the hope that they can raise feminism during the 1940s. However, I believe there's an implicit purpose, a purpose behind the explicit purpose, and that's to masculinize women. As you can see, there's short hair, there's muscles, and a posture in which she is at, and the rigid face structure, facial expressions are all those of a common man. And by masculinizing women, it's saying that it's implying that if women want power, they should be like men. And this is especially important because this character, Rosie the River, is a commonly coined phrase. It's appeared in many songs and other propaganda. So it's like a symbol or a mascot of the woman. And the second implicit purpose I would like to talk about is to promote patriotism and nationalism to hasten the production and ammunition necessary for war. And if you can see the bottom right, it says War Production Coordinating Committee. What that symbolizes is the propaganda is published by an organization where they control war. It's not a private or a individual person who just simply wishes to promote feminism, but in this case, they know that they need ammunition to win the war, and by making this, they're saying that if women come to make ammunition for war, they can help us, but they actually need the ammunition for the victory. So they might have made this propaganda to have more workforce in the weaponry. And also, it can be misleading because, as you can see, the blue attire and the muscles, it's kind of implying that they will be as glorious as the men fighting in the war. But in reality, they will be working in factories, which are less desirable because of the unsanitary conditions and the danger. So to conclude, in his propaganda, Howard Miller conveyed his theme. Feminism is important, but only to an extent where men are superior, by the use of symbolism of colors, a hopeful tone, and minute illustrations. Thank you.